How's it going? It's Rocky. This has been requested in the past, and today I will show you what's included in my chart setup. So this will work mostly for the brokerage I'm using, which is ThinkOrSwim by TD Ameritrade, but I'm sure you could do something similar with whichever brokerage you are using. I am trading mostly the micro E-mini and the E-mini futures. Lately, I've been leaning towards more of the E-mini futures since I was able to scale up and I am able to afford the E-mini futures. But regardless of which one you are trading, this chart setup should work. Again, this is just a suggestion. It doesn't mean 100% guarantee, and there's no catch for it. It was just something that you could use as a base if you do like the strategy that I'm using. And if you're a first time checking out my content, please do check out the other checklist of some of the live day trading that I've done initially, and then lately I've been doing more of a account statement review as well as highlighting some of the good trades and bad trades that we have done recently. So as of right now, this is my current setup. On the left is a time-based chart, which is 5 minutes, utilizing candles, 5-minute candles. And on the right is a tick-based chart, which is utilizing 512 ticks. So today we'll show you exactly how to get started with this. So I like to trade from the chart section. And from the chart section, you would have to go to the upper right here. So as you can see, I have a bunch of saved ones that I've used in the past, or specifically when I'm trading a specific micro feature index. So what we'd like to do is, since I have two screens there, is we want to highlight two screens, and that's what we'll do. First, I'm going to reset everything to the factory default, and I'm going to do that by going to the style and reset to factory default. I'll do that for that chart, and then the style on the right side, I will also reset that to factory default. And then I still have some of my drawings there, so on the bottom left, I'm just going to go back to default on that. And on the right, I will also go to default. And then next on the studies itself, I'm also going to remove all. Alright, so when you start the chart itself, go to the upper right and select the two windows, since that is what we're using. And when you do click on that, this is what we'll get itself. I'm just going to hide the active trader portion of it for now. So that should be the chart that you have if you do have ThinkOrSwim. And the next thing we're going to work on is the studies itself. So we'll go to the studies here. It looks like right there. And basically what we'll do is, for me, what I've done is, I could just load it because it was pre-saved, but we'll do this from scratch. So what we'll do is, you could add the study based on, individually by doing this. But I found that the quicker way of doing this is just do edit studies. And that way, you'll be able to add exactly which study you need for whichever area you want, and you can also mess around with the order of how you want to do this. So with my trading, I like to focus on the candles first, and that dictates what I need to do. And as a confirmation, that's where I use the MACD indicator and the stochastic RSI indicators. So again, those are just indicators that I use for confirmation, and they are lagging. So this, that's one of the main reasons why I use both a time-based and a tick-based chart. So for the MACD itself, just type in MACD, and the one that we use is essentially just the standard MACD that we have. So I'll include that in there. I did not make any changes to the parameters on it, but if you were curious and you wanted to do so, just go to this cogwheel here, and you can change the settings to change the fast length, slow length, and etc. And then the next one that we like to use is the stochastic RSI. So I'll type in RSI, and then the one that we are using is the stochastic RSI. Again, there's other RSIs that you could play around with. Just with my experience, the stochastic RSI worked the best for what I'm doing, and that's the reason why I'm using that. So, all right, so we have the MACD and the stochastic RSI, and I think I'm gonna change the order of that because I prefer to see the MACD in the bottom and then stochastic RSI on the top. So those are the two that I like to use. And then some other things that you probably notice on my chart are other indicators. They're not really something that I follow. They're there because it's something I've used in the past and I just didn't bother taking them out. And there's also some that I am testing out just to see how it works. So the one thing that I'm testing out right now is the ATR trailing stop. So I will include that. And then some of the things that you probably have seen on my chart, which again, I don't use as a confirmation. It just helps more as a visual when I'm looking at the chart itself. We do have the VWAP in there. So I'll include that. And then next we have the TTM scalper alert. And then the next one that I had is the zigzag high-low alert. And that's what I'm using. So those are just for visual ones. And then some that I do have some moving average on there. It's something I used to use when I was day trading equities, but couldn't really make sense of it from the futures, but I still left it there anyway because it's not something that's bothering me too much. I know a chart with too many things could distract you, but something that I did with mine is just I made the colors really light, so it's not something I really notice. And over time, hopefully I'll notice something where I could make a connection for the pattern. But if not, it doesn't really hurt having it in there. So it's up to you if you want to include this. So I do have the moving average on here. So the moving average, and the one that we're using are exponential. So there are two types. There are the simple moving average and the exponential moving average. But we'll stick with the exponential moving average for now. And I'm gonna add 3 of those because I am using 3. And now let's also include the simple moving average. So I'll add that. So this one, I had different settings on it. I may have watched another YouTube where I learned this from. I don't recall where I got this from, but for the moving average, I like to use 8, 20, and 200. So we're gonna change that to 8. We'll change that second one to a 20. And the third one, we will change that to 200. And then for the third one, the simple moving average, that was also at 300. So, like what I mentioned, it's not something I really pay attention to, but definitely something that you could adapt or edit based on either other studies you've looked at or based on your experience so far. And one thing I'd like to add, which I'll do it on the simple moving average, you are able to change the colors and the thickness of all of those. Like for example, for my VWAP, I had that at orange and I just wanted it to be really thick. It's something I used to use when I was trading equities, not so much now that I'm trading futures. But, it's very customizable. Is something that what I really like about the ThinkOrSwim platform itself. So I'll click all of that, and then for all these studies, we could save this as a set itself. So you can use it again later instead of doing it individually. So we'll save that as a set, and let's call this just YouTube. Oops. Okay. So that is for the studies itself. And there you go. So now you see what the studies look like. Okay. And then as you can tell, stochastic RSI and the moving average and a bunch of other things are bundled in here, and it's really hard to see a lot of these things. and the volume is in the middle here. But that's just a preference. You can change however you want to do that. And how we're going to do this is, first of all, for that volume, I like it to be with the chart itself. So I'm going to go to settings. And then for the settings, on general, I go to overlap volume. So when I click on that and apply, there you go. So you see that the volume is now there itself. Press OK. And then for this one, the way that it's set up, I don't really quite like what's going on there. So what we'll do is we're going to go back to studies and we will edit the studies itself. And you notice that the stochastic RSI and the MACD are both on this lower one. You'd like to be able to separate that, so you can drag it. So now they're separated. So stochastic RSI and the MACD there, and you apply. There you go. Now it's getting to that point that you're probably used to from seeing from my previous charts there. And then now that we've done that, the next thing we'll do is the candles itself. If you zoom in, again, just personal preference, the green candles are hollow on this one. So that's something I changed. So again, to settings, you can then go to appearance. And on the appearance, now we are using a candle. I will do a fill up on that, apply, there you go. So again, that's just more of a preference thing. So however you want to be able to see your candles itself. And next we will go to the time chart that we have here. I have a lot of customized ones here that I use. Something I've been using a lot lately. I know in my description I say 20 days, 5 minutes, but I also mess around with longer time charts, 5 days, 5 minutes and whatnot. For now, we'll just do a 5 days, 5 minutes for the chart itself here. And the reason I have a higher time frame sometimes is I like to be able to zoom out and get a bird's eye view on what exactly is going on. So all right, so it looks like that's all done. And yep, that's the chart that we have for the time-based chart itself. So again, if you are curious what each one is, you can just double click on it. And then the one that we're looking at right now here is the VWAP. And we could change that to any color we want. So like what I said, change that to orange. And there you go. It changed to orange itself for the VWAP. And if we wanted to change the other things, oh yeah, I forgot. For the VWAP itself, most people just usually they get rid of the upper band and the lower band itself. So I will remove that. So unselect the show plot part, and then the lower band, you can unselect that as well. And there you go. So that's starting to be a little cleaner itself. And you may change the SMAs and the EMAs however you want it to. So that's for the left side. That's the 5-minute time-based charts. Now we will update the tick-based chart on the right here. So the studies are the same. So what's great here is I can just load the study set and I'll select the one that we made, which was YouTube. So there you go. So it's already there. And then for the settings, we'll do the same thing. I do want to overlap the volume, apply, there you go. So that volume is overlapped, press OK. And then you see how there's an issue here again. So actually I need to go back to my studies, edit studies, and basically how it is right now, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna there you go, save it over the previous one we did, so it remembers it. So when we go back to the right here and we go to studies and we load the study set, select it, it should be exactly the same. So now they look exactly the same almost. The only other difference that we need to change is the candles itself. So go to settings and then go to appearance, and I want to fill up on that. And since this is the tick-based chart, something that I did a little different is I am using Heikinashi for the tick-based chart. It's just a preference. Again, it's up to you on which one you want to use. I just like the idea that with the Heikinashi, it just does I don't know the exact formula of it. You'd have to look it up. But basically, it just, it takes in the data previously and on the current and next one. So some people like it, some people don't. It really depends on, how you're using it. And then with my Heikinashi, just so I don't ever get confused, I did change the colors a little bit. So going up, I changed that to white, and going down is red. So I'll do that there, and we'll apply. I'll do a fill up on that. There you go. So that's our Heikinashi on the right side itself. Now you have both the studies, and also for this one, we do like to use 512 ticks. So let's just say, and the maximum for this is just 5 days. And then there's a lot of tick counts you can use. For the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I found 512 ticks to work. For the ES and the NASDAQ, so S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, you might need a higher tick count. But that's something you'd have to figure it out on your own, since it's not something I've been trading often lately. Okay, so that's our 5 days, 512 ticks. And now we have the charts that I'm using. And then one other advice that I would do is, you've noticed, for example, we'll look for one here, which is a confirmation of our strategy. And this is how I backtest itself. You notice how this is when the VWAP has a crossover, and it also corresponded right with this stochastic RSI being on the overbought area. And something I like to do is I draw a vertical line, not only when I enter, but when I'm trying to figure out exactly what's the reason this went up. So in reality, you could even draw it before that, because if you look at it, that's when the reverse started, the trend reversed. But for consistency's sake, we're just gonna do it here. But because conservatively, this is when we would enter for a long trade. And basically, for this one too, it's great because it's above the zero line itself. And you notice how when I drew a vertical line there, I also drew a vertical line on this side. But with the time-based and the tick-based chart, they don't really, it doesn't hit a specific candle itself. So I like to keep those independent of each other. So something that I like to do is on the bottom, for example here, for the drawing set, it's on default right now. So we're going to change that as a new drawing set. And we will call this YouTube. And we'll just call that time, because it's a time-based chart. All right. So what's great about it is if I do delete this, it won't delete the one on the left. And on the right side, we will change this as well. We'll save this drawing set as YouTube. And this will be the tick-based chart. Okay. So the reason why I did that is, like, if I was curious about this move up here, which is a great move up, and you look at it from 32,410 to about 32,606. So to make the math easier, let's just say that's almost 200 points. And if you were trading one contract, you would just do 200 times 5, so that's $1,000 move right there. But if I was curious why that move occurred, I would draw a vertical line on this beginning here, and then let's just say on the end as well, let's just draw one right here. And just for consistency, when I'm bullish, end of the trade, I put an orange line right there. So that's a tick-based chart, and I'm going to look on the left as well. Again, I'm going to adjust that more to the left because, if we're just evaluating indicators, this was the first candle I would have. Again, this is a hindsight 2020, hindsight trading, the genius of hindsight trading. So don't do this when you're actually trading. It's more of a way to evaluate a strategy that you're using. So for here, let's just say, we hit the bottom and then got out on the very top. We'll draw another line right here. And orange when we did, if we do end it. So now we can look and evaluate the differences between the two. So let's focus on the time-based chart itself. This occurred on the 6:25 a.m. candle. And if you look at the MACD itself, it hasn't crossed yet. It's sort of heading there, but you don't know, right? You don't know what's going to happen in the future. And then on the stochastic RSI, you're not quite in the oversold area yet. And I probably wouldn't have entered. And the reason why I use the tick-based chart is like as a confirmation. I want both to be telling me the same thing. So if I look on the tick-based chart for that candle I would have entered, if you look at the time, that corresponding candle, Heikin-Ashi candle, is at 6:26 a.m. So with that, it's tough again to enter, because if you look at the histogram there, yes, it's starting to converge and about to cross over, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So really, the stochastic RSI isn't on the oversold area yet. So if I were to enter this trade, when I would have entered is, let me move this. When I would have entered, if you were a genius and can see the future, would be on this candle right here. And this candle happened on 6:31. And with the 6:31 candle, the crossover already occurred. And then the stochastic RSI is on the overbought area. Very bullish candles. And then on the left, if we move this to 6:31, would fall under the 6:30 5-minute candle. So again, at this point, crossover occurred there. You're in the oversold area. So yeah, everything is in agreement. So that's like your ideal, perfect time to enter a trade itself. So that's exactly how I backtest it. That's how I gain confidence from it. And if you're ever curious with any strategies you want, just look at a chart. Look at a 30 base. You can look at a, whatever you want to look at. And for example, for this one, you're never going to hit the highs when you're shorting, or you're never going to hit the really lows when you're going long. But just for ideal sake, you would draw a vertical line here, try to understand how all the indicators are working, and look at the corresponding tick base also, look at the time. And from there, you can formulate your own system. And really, that's how you can develop your own system, give you the confidence, and giving you the highest probability of being successful in your trade. And one last help I could give you on this is, since we've already set this up the way we want it, we could just save the grid itself, save the grid as. And for that grid, I'm just gonna call it YouTube itself. So just in case you want to be able to change it to, maybe you're trading Globex and it's slower and you want to play around with different tick counts, or you really want to trade the ES as opposed to the YM, and you have different tick counts for it, you can do something that I do here, where I have specific ones for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500, where you can adjust it to whatever works for the system that you're using. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that content. Hope you learned something. Hopefully I answered most of the questions that y'all have. But if you have any more questions, please feel free to write on the comment section below. And please do subscribe if you learned something. And if you don't, please give me another chance on the next content, and hopefully you'll learn something then. All right, I'll see you next time.